All right, let's put the finishing touches on this. First of all, I'm going to make sure everything is okay. We need to round out this corner here and make the bottom flat. I'm going to grab all the points, Control A, Angus, select Optimize, so that I fuse together anything that's missing. I'm going to check my symmetry and make sure that everything is empty on the inside faces. That's good. Okay, and now let's make sure that this is all lined up at 0. I'll turn this off. Let's go to UL, loop select, and let's get these inside faces here and here. There we go. Now we need to make sure that they're totally lined up. I'm going to make sure that I'm in world down here because we want to make sure they're lined up to the absolute world. And our size in the X direction should be 0, right? And so that may be more than that in your case. And then we want to move it to 0 so it's exactly in the middle, okay? And you want to double check and make sure your symmetry object is also all zeroed out, right? If it's not, take the chair out, then zero it out, then put the chair back in, okay? Now, let's make sure it's sitting totally flat on the floor. And so let's go ahead and grab all of these points here. So the very bottom points. Here, you may be able to do this with loop select. I'm just going to do it manually. Come in here and grab these. All the points that would sit on the floor. And there we go. And let's make sure that their Y size is 0. So essentially flatten them out. Again, making sure we're in world. And then we have to make sure they're exactly on the floor. And so their position is 0. Hold on. There we go. There we go. All right, that's all flattened out. Good. Excellent. Let's take some of the rounding. I'm going to group this with the turns back on and grab the bevel object. So let's get a bevel. There we go. Grab the symmetry in the bevel and Alt-G to group them together. Call this chair. There we go. And the bevel, too much beveling, NB so I can see polygons. The bevel should be, it's got to be smaller than even our insets. And so in the bevel object here, our amount of beveling, maybe like 0.3. There we go. And say 1 subdivision, maybe 3. Let's say even less. Let's say 0.1. There we go. That looks cleaner. And now we're getting the kind of rounding that we want on all the edges. Looking nice. Very good. All right, cool. That's looking pretty good. Nice. We want to make sure there's no weird breakage, and we want to make sure it's... So in the bevel options... Yeah, I think 3 and 0.1 is good. This edge here needs to be rounded. If we look at the top, it's more of a round there. So we're going to turn the bevel off, and we need to round that separately. And so let's grab that edge and do this. We're going to need to bevel that one. And so let's grab the geometry, get this, and hit MS, and bevel this out. Clearly we're going to need some subdivisions here. So let's turn this up. Not too many. Right about there. Okay. You see how this is a much wider rounding because we can't just use the bevel object because that's a much tighter edge rounding. We're sort of just rounding this here. So let's turn this back on. See how it fares. That looks fine. Good. And now we have that rounding on the front edge. This part here, maybe a straighter line. Let's change that. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn that bevel off again. And yeah, let's look at that from the top. Maybe select this over here. And so let's go ahead and grab a couple different ways to do this. Let's go ahead and try and grab maybe this polygon right here. Rotate this slightly. Just sort of straighten that out. E, and there we go. That sort of straightens that out. Turn the bevel back on. Nice. Cool. There we go. Let's file save incremental. This is looking good. Now we need to get just a polygon version. So I'm going to go ahead and click this and call this archive. So I can save my control, drag that to here, red. So I have my procedural version all done. Put all of this together. And we need to turn this into one polygon object. And so I'm going to right click and say current state to object. And that should give me just one chair mesh. I can delete this one because I have it backed up in my archive. There we go. Press Control A, make sure all the normals look good. They do. If you want to get rid of this center line, you could. I don't think you need to in this one. It's not creating that many more polygons. And that is nice and clean. Oh, anchor point. It's not good. Here we go. Let's turn this on. We need the anchor point at the bottom. So Shift-C, axis, center, and say execute. So that moves it to the bottom. We want it flat. Alignment. We want it to the world. There we go. Now it's straight up and down. So that'll be important, especially if you're going to use the place object. Cool. And so now this chair is good. I'm going to get it out of all these other. This is unnecessary. Cool. And so I've got this nice clean chair. It's ready to go.